Okay, so in the previous video, we have tried to see how the various independent states have tried to move away from the early, erstwhile Soviet Union, and we were discussing that how the republics of Belarus, Ukraine, and the Russia, they have uh, met in Brest, that is in Belarus, and form the Commonwealth of Independent States, and by declaring that the Soviet Union no longer existed. They proclaimed that the establishment of the Commonwealth of Independent States, an international association of sovereign countries whose administrative center would be located in Minsk, that is in Belarus. On December 19, Yeltsin ordered the Russian government to assume all the functions of the Soviet government except for defense and nuclear energy production. And this was the very important move towards the privatization. 2 days later, the president of 11th of the 12th remaining republics met in Almata. Now it is called, that is Almaty in Kazakhstan, to sign the foundation document of the CIS. Georgia was not an initial signatory member, as the country was gripped by the unrest that would eventually topple the Gram-Sakhurdia government in January 1992. And this is how all that remained was for the Gorbachev to retire as graceful as possible. So on December 25th, 1991, Gorbachev announced his resignation of the presidency of the Soviet Union in a televised address at 7:32 p.m. Less than half hour after the conclusion of the Gorbachev speech, the Soviet hammer and sickle flag, which was earlier an indication of a superpower, it was lowered from the outside the Kremlin for the final time. It was replaced by the pre-revolutionary red, white, and blue tricolor of Russia. Russia succeeded to the USSR's permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council, and all Soviet embassies became Russian embassies. For 6 days, the Soviet Union continued to exist in name only. At midnight on December 31st, 1991, it was formally dissolved. So, this is how these were the various events, and this is how the various republics which had withdrawn themselves from the Soviet Union. Now, Russia after the Boris Yeltsin. How Russia, the situation was Russia? What was the situation of Russia after Boris Yeltsin? That is, when he came to power, and it was the very different period. It was a very different phase, and it was a totally reshaping politics that the entire globe was facing, or the entire globe was experiencing. However, it was not, in a way, just a minute, it was not in a way a very successful move towards the democracy. It has various lacunas, and it led to the various other things as well. So on it led to the what we can say is the Boris Yeltsin had to resign, and finally he has chosen his successor, that is Vladimir Putin. So on December 31st, 1919, Yeltsin gave a surprise address announcing his resignation, asking the Russian people's forgiveness for the past mistakes that he has committed. Then he handed off the power to the Vladimir Putin, his chosen successor, as we all know, and the last of his prime minister, who granted him the immunity from prosecution. Yeltsin died on April 23, 2007, following a quiet retirement during which Putin re-centralized authority and restricted dissent. So this is how the entire journey has been, through which the Soviet Union has collapsed. Then the Boris Yeltsin came to power, and the various factors that he has made in the forms of either reforms or in the forms of changes, which had in a way, which had in a way we can say that indicates the power decentralization during the Yeltsin's period. However, his successor, that is Vladimir Putin, a very strong international leader, we can say, is trying to resurge, re-emerge the Russia's positions, which it was trying to enjoy during the Soviet period. So it has the period. I think the period is marked with the lots of changes and the significant moves led by Vladimir Putin. Now, this was the period for the Yeltsins that we have discussed, how the decade has been. Now, let's understand how the Russian foreign policy was working under the Yeltsin's period. After the dissolution of the Soviet Union, which marked one of the remarkable events in not only in the domestic affairs, not only in regional affairs, but also in international politics in recent history, uh, and in a way it has reshaped the politics of the 21st century as well. Russia and its neighboring countries found themselves in a state of tremendous uncertainty. Decades of communist rule left all ex Soviet republics in a condition of underdevelopment compared to the Western world, and that was very obvious. However, the situation appeared to be an opportunity for the mostly newly established countries as well, which some of them used to follow the path of European integration, as for instance the Baltic states did. We all know that the Baltic states had joined NATO and the European Union. So many of the earlier republics of the Soviet Union, they had a kind of tilt towards the western. They had tilted towards the west, and uh, tilted towards the west, and then this create, I think this had already created a kind of tendency towards laissez-faire market, and the tendency towards the privatization and liberalization. So in Russia, some measures with respect to these phenomena were done by the Boris Yeltsin as first democratically elected president of the Russian Federation, who had united the population's hopes to transform Russia into in a way liberal democracy. The kind of liberal democracy in the decades of the 1990s that Russia was passing can be denoted by the number of increasing political parties. That is, earlier it was only the CPSU. Now many parties have got space in terms of participation into their political process, into the elections. Then the media, the kind of loosening control over the media. The wave of democratization was started in the decade of 1990s, and that is why with that reference, or with that respect, the changes in foreign policy becomes a very crucial issue during the Yeltsin's period. As we all have seen that the Yeltsin's shift towards the liberal economy, and with regard to his foreign policy, Yeltsin has pursued the approach of integrating Russia into the community of the Western states, thereby, however, giving up Russia's traditional status as a major power in international politics, distinctive to the Western European powers. Yet, in the course of time, this course changed, and we all know that under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, this course has changed because Russia has emerged with its own distinct identity under the strong leadership of the Putin. So, yet in the course of time, this course changed, and Russia became more and more opposed to the West in terms of its security issues, in terms of its economic development, in terms of its choosing the path for the economic development and managing its international affairs. So it seems to be following a very distinctive strategy. It's very strategically. If we see that Russia is trying to protect its own national interest, unlike just by assimilating into the interest of the Western countries. So here we are going to analyze the Yeltsin's foreign policy in terms of underlying various factors that drove these procedures in his first terms as a president. And therefore we will here analyze the various specific issues in a more by focusing more on the systematic and domestic Russia's leaders behavior, because that becomes very important in terms of achieving the foreign policy objectives. Let's try to understand how it has been. So, the first phase of the Russian foreign policy under the President Yeltsin can be characterized as inherently pro Western. The mindset of the foreign policy elite demanded that a profound integration of the community of Western states is very much essential for the prosperous future of the newly established Russian state. If the newly established Russian state, though it is continuing as a part of the Soviet Union, still it's very important that it should imbibe, according to Yeltsin, it should imbibe the certain characteristics from the European and the Western countries and their path of development. So we tend to see that the foreign policy objectives has become very pro Western. Suddenly the formerly called evil empire, which was called by the Reagan, turn all its attentions towards the Americans and Europeans. So in order to understand this important shift in foreign policy, we have to consider various levels of analysis and thus make sense of systematic and domestic conditions that contributed to this development. In a more systematic approach, the collapse of the Soviet Union should not be just merely understood as the dissolution of an ethnically heterogeneous empire reaching from the Baltic Sea to the Pacific Ocean, but also as the defeat of an ideology. It was the defeat of ideology. It was the defeat of an ideology, even though communism is still alive and the state ideology of, for instance, China and Cuba. It has lost its main proponent and the most important figurehead with the breakdown of the Soviet Union. In this sense, the collapse of the Soviet Union was a historic event marking the end of rivalries between the communism and capitalism and has thus shaped the minds of political actors of that time. That the two different